What's up, everyone? It's Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And this is Dog Behavior Q&A, episode 113. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. For the first time, the reason why I have this mic is because I'm recording them on a podcast. So hopefully you guys can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please let me know. But we're testing all this equipment out because I am going to make a regular podcast, a regular dog podcast as well. So I'm testing out all this equipment, trying to get all schmancy fancy. But we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So people from the gram can finally ask questions live. It's a good day. I hope everyone has a happy Easter. It is Friday, April 19th, 20th. I can't look at my phone. Hold on. The 19th. So, we're here. We're going to answer some questions. People, please, whoever is live, feel free to ask questions. Ask as many as you like. Ask whatever you want. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's get started. All right. Well, first of all, let me just say, if you guys don't already know, I have been asked to be a speaker alongside some very good dog trainers. I'm just going to name a few that you guys may know of, but February 7th, 2020, in California. It's called the We Are Dog Training Growth Conference. I'm going to be speaking along the likes of Duke Ferguson, Bill Church, Angelina Jacquez, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Roddy Kirk, John Devine, just to name a few. These are some great trainers. You can go to, let's see, how do you find this out? Oh, We Are Dog Training. Type in We Are Dog Training in Facebook to find out details. And to get the pre-sale ticket launch is going to be coming soon. So check that out. Wanted to put that in. Kind of sounds like a plug, but whatever. But yeah, keep up with that. I'm honored to be able to speak alongside these people. So pretty cool. All right, let's get into it. Again, you guys, whoever answers live, I'm going to be answering some questions that I have in my inbox. But if you guys are watching live, you guys are the priority, so ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to be answering questions via other social media outlets. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. All right, let's do it. Okay, so first question comes from Jessica. Hey, so I need some advice on Remy. I can get him to stay in his bed when visitors come, and he's doing better-ish on walks. However, he does not like our son, Creed. Just turned 7 last week. He is animated, busy, noise, but a sweet kid. He adores the dogs. Remy will air snap at him if Creed is talking and using his hands. He stutters, so he uses his hands a lot when he talks. He doesn't snap every time, but often enough for me to be seriously considering rehoming him. If Creed runs to the table, I'll see Remy follow him. Sometimes he'll nip at his hands or feet. I correct him every single time. As soon as I yell, hey, or go to your bed, he chills out and will go lay down. Just don't understand why at this age, and with all the consistent training, he still does this. He doesn't do this with the 3 girls, just Creed. I know he would do it with kids who don't live here, though, too, if he had the opportunity. I can tell kids make him nervous. Sometimes when Creed or the girls come upstairs, he'll go run in the bedroom. He has never been injured by the kids. I just know if he will ever get better. I'm frustrated. This is still happening when he's doing better with everything else. Is there anything I could do to work on the kids before deciding to rehome him? Yes, there is something you can do. There is no sound. I'm having trouble with the sound. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. How about now? Wait a minute. Hello? How about now? Can you hear me now? Shoot, I just answered that whole question. Asked that whole question. Let me know, Facebook, if you can hear me. Otherwise, we gotta keep pressing some buttons until you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like or something. I don't want to go on without you guys hearing me. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. All right, so basically the question was, how do I get my dog who is still having trouble with my kid? The dog is nipping at the kid when the kid walks by. All the other kids, the dog is fine. Okay, so here, check it out. All right, so don't rehome that dog before you give the dog a correction that is going to be stern enough for the dog to want to avoid partaking in the behavior it wants to partake in, right? So I would put the e-collar on the dog and have your son do what your son does. And if your dog decides to get up and go towards your son at all, then again, I would give a very strong correction. Okay, that dog needs a chance for that to happen before you decide to rehome the dog. The dog, again, has to have something strong enough for it to avoid, for the dog to avoid. Okay, you want something for the dog to say, I don't want that to happen again. Because once the dog actually has that understanding, then the dog will be open to accepting everything that child brings. It's pretty common that a dog picks out one child from the group for various reasons, but all that is secondary to what you want, or what or how to approach correcting that behavior. Okay, so make sure that you give the dog something, a very strong correction. Give that dog a chance to actually reconsider its actions, because it will. The dog is smart enough. I've worked with the dog before, and I know it has the ability. So, high correction with the e-collar. Try that. All right. Okay. All right, you guys. Bring on them questions. Again, I'm testing out everything, so sorry about the sound in the beginning, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. Okay, next question. Thank you for all your help. Any tips on guarding? Food, toys, etc. Never anything more than growling, but has done it his whole life. Since he was in a kennel with his litter mate, we've tried leave it, and it doesn't seem to be enough. All right, so this question is for Kim. If your word leave it doesn't work, then you will have to have some sort of tool that will be in conjunction with your command leave it. All right, so again, our overall goal is to have our dogs take our word for it. And if they don't take our word for it, then we have to add a training tool in the form of what training tools work the best? Prong collar, doggy don't, e-collar. The e-collar will probably be the best because it's so versatile. You can be as gentle as possible, and you can be as firm as necessary, which is why I really recommend the e-collar. Now, again, the goal is to teach the dog that when you say leave it, it actually does that. But some dogs are stubborn, and it's not just going to be as easy as saying leave it. So you will have to add something there to get the dog to listen to you. All right? And again, the appropriate correction depends on the temperament of the dog. All right, let's do it. Next question. Okay. All right. Tuke has been doing good playing with other dogs since training, but lately he started like growling a lot. He was playing with another husky, and they were fine and running around 1 second. Then the next he was growling. He's never really been a growler before, but now when playing he does. Is there anything I can do to stop that and make it so he can play with others? Well, that's kind of a broad question. The dog could be growling for many different reasons. You want them when you're socializing dogs. You want to make sure it's always fair. So if they're playing and it seems fair, both are engaged in playing, and both are sort of going forward at each other, as opposed to one retreating and one sort of chasing. If that's happening, then it might be bullying. Your dog may be overwhelmed with that dog, and the growl just may be telling the dog that I don't want to play anymore, or you're bullying me, or you're being too pushy and go away, or tone it down. And so you want to be able to recognize just what fair play is, and fair play is, you know, both sort of engaging sort of at the same level. You know what I mean? Energy wise, because one dog can be overwhelming the other, and if that happens, then you want to intervene somehow, some way. If you're at the dog park and doing that, it's going to be a little harder. But if it's not, if it's just a group of friends in your backyard or something like that, I would definitely intervene, just so that your dog. Well, I mean, I'll leave it up to you. If the growling works for your dog, then that's fine. You know what I mean? But you can also, again, depending on the context, you can also correct your dog for doing that. If your dog's just being a grumpy, you know, whatever, then yeah, feel free to correct them for that behavior. So it just depends. If the dog's being, again, being bullied, then I would definitely, not knock my dog for growling at a dog like that. So, all right, you guys. Oh, got another question. Okay. This question is for Krista. I started Peyton with a prong collar 2 weeks ago. What an improvement. 80% much easier walking her. Thank you so much. She's still crazy than can be, but getting better. Well, that's good, Krista. I'm glad to hear that. I would recommend, just giving it more time, getting the hang of her. Now that you've got that 80% going, I would definitely keep going with that. It doesn't happen overnight. The more consistent you are with it, the easier it gets. It gets easier from here, the more consistent you are with it. All right. So keep up the good work, and let me know how it goes. Okay, we got a question on Instagram. How would you deal with a dog that gets fixated on things as they cross the threshold of the house? Great question. All right. So there's a couple of different things that you can do to sort of help them calm down when going through thresholds. And the number one thing that I can suggest to you, do they get fixated on people? Fixated on people. Okay, so one thing that I would recommend is that you spend time at the threshold, just sitting there, getting a what we like to call a non-negotiable sit. Thanks, Lise. How are you? Getting a non-negotiable sit, and that means the dog sits for as long as you want, and eventually the dog looks at you like, okay, well, we've been here for a while. Well, what do we do? What are we doing here? You want to get your dog to go through that process, because that door, when you touch that door, when you open that door, those wheels start to turn, and then the dog is already, in a certain mindset. But you got to let that dog go through that along with your control and your leadership at the door. So one of the things that we do with all dogs here is we tell them to sit at the door. We keep a short leash so the dog cannot go out. We open the door. They're still in a sit. Open the door wide open and just sit there. Do not hold the dog there. It's important. You can ask as many questions as you like. Do not. Oh, my dad's calling me. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, so back to that question. Do not hold the dog there. The dog should be there, sitting there with loose leash, and you will see the dog eventually look up at you. Without you asking for the eye contact, you want the dog to actually look at you. You know what I mean? So that means the dog is kind of asking to go instead of assuming to go. Don't allow your dog to just burst out the door, because that mindset is what's adding to that fixation. You're allowing the dog to just assume that it can go out, or you're playing into that obsessive fixation of the eye contact. But you guys can ask as many questions as you like. Don't feel free to ask more than one for sure. This is like a conversation, so please ask them all. And remember this: your question is going to help someone else, because I'm pretty sure that your question, someone else is probably struggling or be going through the same thing. All right. Okay. Let's go to Facebook for a question. Any suggestions for a harness for a giant breed? Depends on what you want to do with that dog. If you want to walk the dog, then I wouldn't suggest a harness at all. But if you want the dog to pull, then I would suggest a working dog harness, which you can get at workingdog.eu. Or I think you can get them on Amazon, but they've got some good harnesses there for pulling. If you don't want your dog to pull, and he pulls, then I would work with a prong collar instead of a flat collar and instead of a choke chain. So those are my thoughts. People seem to think that you can't be gentle with a prong collar, like it's some bad device, but it's the best one out there for the dog and for the owner, to get the dog to be very relaxed on the walk and allow people to actually walk their dog. So harnesses just are for pulling. All right, thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. All right, how do I get my female blue nose to pay attention to me on a walk? She walks nice-ish beside me, but usually has to get corrected by the collar when I turn around. Make sure you're using that prong collar with that with the blue nose. Make sure you're using the prong collar, and make sure that prong collar is fitted correctly. I just put out a great video, not a great video, but it's a video. A good video. As far as quality, it was good. On YouTube about the prong collar, how to use it, how to fit it, and what it's for. So you definitely want to check that out. There's also another video on how to walk properly. What we do is walk all dogs with loose leash, which means the dog is choosing to walk. Why are they choosing to walk nicely by our side? Because they know that we will correct them if they decide to pull. We're consistent enough with our asking them to do a job that they say, all right, this is where we walk at all times. Excuse me. And in doing so, the dog really learns to work his mind mentally. And you get a really tired dog. You only have to go 15 minutes and you get a really tired dog. I do it every day. Okay. So get that dog loose leash walking. Check out my YouTube. It's on a playlist of do it yourself and how to walk. Check out that video and the prong collar video. All right. Thank you for your question. Feel free to ask another. All right. Next question. How did I get started? Um, I got started in dog daycare in 2006. Found a pit bull on the side of the road. His name was Diesel. If you follow me at all, he's all over my Instagram. His story's all over my Instagram. He basically got me started in dogs because I wanted to make sure that I was taking good care of him. So it was the best life. It was my favorite job. I don't really call what I do now a job, but it was my favorite job. I got to take my dog to work, so I didn't have to deal with a rambunctious dog when I got home. And he was actually tired when I got home, and it was awesome. Obviously built a social dog. Um, so yeah, uh, from there I started training in about 2007, and it wasn't positive only. It started off with that Caesar Milan style, and then people got educated, or I don't want to say educated, but maybe we'll say educated on the positive only movement, and then we went to that. We had to go to that, so that was weird. Uh, and then I got into working dogs, police dogs, and Schutzhund and whatnot. Um, and worked with police dogs down in Georgia until about 2014. Then moved up here, started my business, and worked with the Fox Towel Police and Schutzhund Club while running my business up here. That's kind of a fast track of my career, but basically, dog daycare is where I started, and that was, I think, my best education because I could just sit and watch them for a long, long time. I was obsessed with it, and hundreds of dogs, different temperaments, different sizes, different breeds. I got to know them intimately over a 5-year span, and very educational for me. Learned a lot. One of the things that I learned is that there's every sort of personality in every sort of breed. Yes, there are general temperaments and stuff like that when it comes to certain breeds, but it's really taught me that you can find big personalities, sensitive personalities, dominant personalities, submissive personalities, and all sorts of breeds. All right. Thanks for that question. All right, next question is for Jenna. How do I correct my dog from pulling on a leash? I recently bought a slip rope leash, and he seems not to be as bad now, but still pulls. All right, so your fundamental goal on teaching your dog not to pull is to teach the dog where to be consistently. Okay. We got to remember this. Everyone has to remember this. The leash is a tool. 90% of people don't use it as a tool. They just use it as something to keep their dog from running away from them when they take them on walks. But the goal of a leash is to teach your dog how to behave off leash. That is the goal. And in order to achieve that, the dog um, you must utilize the leash as a tool, and not just a thing that keeps your dog uh, from running away from you. So, um, loose leash walking, loose leash heeling is there for a reason. If you do it consistently enough and long enough, the dog will do the same behavior off leash. The dog will find comfort by your side if you do it. If you walk loose leash long enough. That is the goal. That should be the goal for every dog. You will have to be consistent. You cannot give in to your dog's persistent pursuit to not listen to you, because the dog can easily fall into I can do what I want on the walk. But you will have to 90% of your walk, give the dog a job to do. 90%. No sniffing, no peeing, no pooping, no pulling, just walking. You are teaching your dog something very valuable. That it follows you and you don't follow it. That is the goal. How do you do that? A slip rope leash probably isn't good enough for your dog if it's still pulling. So I'd recommend a Herm Springer prong collar. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's $20. If your dog is a medium-sized dog, then get a medium-sized prong collar. If your dog is small, then you get a small. But prong collar will work, and I would recommend that you also watch. There's along with my videos, there's a lot of videos that teach you how to walk with the prong collar properly. Okay? But again, most important than anything, any tool, is how consistent you're going to be. You got to be more stubborn than the dog, basically. And once you are, the dog will gladly and happily walk by your side. And there's nothing more peaceful than a dog that walks by your side without any pulling. The walks become very, very awesome. All right? Thanks for your question. Okay, same blue nose has 13-week-old puppy that we kept from her litter. What are your thoughts on walking them together and separate? Do you think walking my blue nose on leash with prong and him off leash is a good idea? Hoping to work recall and pay attention to me. He's a pit mastiff mix. Okay. Well, depends on how well. I would say it would probably be a little difficult for one dog to learn how to walk on leash when another dog is allowed to be off leash. Now, 13 weeks is a little young to be able to teach anything except for what they do naturally. And what do they do naturally? They like to follow the pack leader. So the recall is really easy for puppies. But what you can work on is with your older dog, if your older dog has a good recall, what I like to do is just sort of play a follow me game. So especially with the young puppy, you don't have to have the older puppy. You should actually do it with your 13-week-old puppy before you do it with before you walk with the older dog. But your puppy's off leash, maybe attach a leash and let it drag it just for safety reasons. If not, that's fine. But just walk and watch your dog just follow you. And you'll get distracted and you just keep walking. All right, so that's a fundamental difference of being a leader and being a follower. If you stop when your dog stops, you are a follower. If you keep going, your dog will realize that you are the leader, and your dog will follow you. But don't stop when your dog stops. That's what people do on leash that are followers. You want to continue to walk and let your dog realize that you're moving and he has to move with you. Sort of like a pack of wolves. The pack leader, everyone else follows the pack leader. Pack leader doesn't have a leash. Pack leader just goes and everybody else follows, right? So that's the deal. You are the pack leader, you are the alpha male, whatever you want to call it, and you walk and the dog follows you. It's a beautiful thing when you get that. Beautiful thing. Pit bulls are easy too. They're really like one of the best breeds, easiest breeds to teach off leash. All right. Would you suggest, this question is for Carrie, would you suggest a prong collar for a puppy who is learning to walk and not pull? Depends on the age of the puppy. Depends on the temperament of the puppy. And yeah, it depends. So if you want to comment your age of the puppy and sort of your temperament of the puppy, I will give you a more definitive answer. You're welcome. How do I help how do I help with my dog with dog reactivity? Get that loose leash walking. Got to. You give that dog a job to do on the walk, the dog will start to listen to you more as opposed to react to its environment. That's what's got to happen. That loose leash walk. And then everything else comes after that. But you can also correct your dog for trying to pull and or go after another dog or whatever that is. But you got to be proactive with their correction. As soon as they look at a dog, that's when you correct. Don't let the dog lunge and then try to correct. So you're trying to cut the fuse before it hits the bomb, right? Okay. You can get them on chewy. Yes, you can. 5 months. 5 months is old enough. Yeah, I think you could. Just be gentle with it, depending on the dog. Like I said, if you have a sensitive dog, make sure you're being gentle, as gentle as possible. If the dog is not sensitive, then don't worry about being sensitive. All right. Let's see. We got something. YouTube. People ask really dumb questions on YouTube. All right. Anything else on Instagram? Hello. Do you allow your dogs to run the perimeter of your fence, or does this cause territorial issues? I allow my dogs to go wherever they want to in my yard, but I do not allow them to sort of run. If you're talking about, running along the fence, reacting to something, a dog or a human or whatever, then I do not allow that. I want calmness in the yard. I can allow them to play, but they won't do that fence running, fence fighting, any of that. So I think that's what you're getting at, hopefully, with your question. But yeah, I don't allow them to run the perimeter of my fence in regards to reacting to something. They can run inside my yard all they want, but they're not allowed to react, bark, or anything like that when I'm out there. All right, hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, try to explain it a little better and specific. But thanks for your question. Okie dokie. All right, how do I get my 1-year-old Boston to not be so hyper with people? So, when it comes to teaching your dog how to be calm around people, you have to tell people to ignore the dog, and you also have to control your own dog. The dog is anticipating people touching him or wanting to touch him or her, and that can cause that reactive mindset. This means this. Anytime you have a dog that has any sort of obsessive behavior, nothing should never ever mean the same thing with your dog. That's how you get a dog to sort of be calm. Because if a door means go crazy, if a person means bark, if a dog means lunge, those are all really reactive behaviors. And again, we have to figure out how we can change that. We got to figure out how we can get your dog calm to be in that situation. And it does come from our control, but you also have to control the environment. And so, put the dog on leash if say, people are coming over and the dog gets hyper. What I would do is put the dog on leash and tell the people to ignore the dog until the dog is indifferent to the situation. Not looking at them, not sitting and staring at them, not wiggle butting, all this barking and stuff like that. I'd wait until the dog was ignoring them, basically, indifferent to the situation, before it's pet. Because socializing dogs to people isn't always about meeting a million people. Socializing your dog to people just means seeing people and not wanting to bite them. That's socialization. Sometimes we have to be our dog's advocate and not allow people to touch them, because some dogs don't take well to touching or to being touched. So that's what I would do. You want to get your dog to not be so hyper with people, people have to mean something different to the dog. All right, I hope that makes sense. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another one or expand if you like. All right, started following you not long ago. Keep up the great work. Thank you, and thank you for your question. I appreciate it. Okay, let's keep them rolling. Using that scenario, what if my dog is still vocal on leash? It won't be if you get that walk right. So even if you have to take that dog somewhere where there's not dogs, and you can work on that walk, that's the most important thing. The most important thing is that the dog is walking with you, but loose leash walking. Yep, that is the number one thing. Loose leash walking. Because think about it, the dog is actually trying to then figure out how to not get corrected on the walk, and or has to worry and respond to what you're doing, as opposed to not worrying about you at all. Because some dogs, there's just no dialogue between dog and owner, especially around certain things. So definitely loose leash walking, giving the dog a job to do. In any scenario, when the dog is reactive, we must show the dog that it must do something in order to open up that dog's mind. Because that dog's mind, when it's in when it's in a reactionary mindset, is closed. It's just, I want this, and there's nothing else that matters. But if you give that dog a job to do, at least we're now slowing down the wheels a little bit, and we're getting the dog to think about something else other than, I want that dog, or want that person. I want to answer that door. I want to jump on these people. I want to bark at the squirrel. Anything like that. All right? My pleasure. Okay. Let's keep it moving. My dog growls at my boyfriend every time he gets home from work, even when he's in place command. After about 5 minutes, he's fine with him. Any suggestions on how to stop this behavior? Well, I would say let time go. Let time be the deciding factor. I mean, I don't think the dog name is Wisco. I don't think the dog actually is worried about the boyfriend more so than worried about the door. Because I'm willing to bet the dog is nervous about people coming through the door. So that's what the dog growls at. Once it realizes that it's your boyfriend, it calms down. But if the dog can actually do something within that 5 minutes that it has to do under your control, it will either go away or it will stay there. But it doesn't matter because the dog is doing what you want. So half the battle is there. You're already good with that. That stuff will either melt away, or again, it doesn't matter because the dog is doing what you want. And as a result, nothing happens. Dog doesn't get to charge. Dog doesn't get to bark. Dog doesn't get to bite. So what you're doing is good. Keep up the good work. All right. Thanks for your question. Okay, next question. My dog is aloof to strangers in public, but if someone tries to pet her, she backs away. Can a shy dog ever be conditioned to enjoy people outside the family? Or some dogs just don't like it? Well, there are genetically sensitive dogs. There are genetically skittish dogs. But I'll say this. Why don't you try this? I advocate for her and don't let people pet her. My issue is with guests who come in the house. She will circle and growl and avoids the person. So kind of just take what I was telling, I was answering in the last question. But but you want to give that dog a job to do. Now, here's what I would do if you're out in public or in the house. It doesn't matter. No, not in the house. Out in public, when you want to socialize your dog, this is what I do with dogs that I'm working with that are shy or aggressive or whatever. Excuse me. I ask if the person can give me 5 feet, and then I say to them, if my dog comes up to you, then you can pet. If not, then he's just being a little nervous, and we're training on, we're working on that. But most of the time, if a dog goes up to someone, then you'll be good. You'll be in the clear. If your dog doesn't, then it shouldn't be pet because it doesn't want to be pet. So I would try that approach. See if you can get your dog to choose to go up to whoever it wants to go up to. If it doesn't, then you can give them that option not to be pet, and that's what's really important. Now inside, to avoid any crap inside, the dog must be doing something. Let's say for the first 5 minutes. That's long enough. So what I do is I tell my dog to go lay down on his bed, and it must calm down. I tell people to ignore it, just like we would do if we were interacting. And until my dog is actually calm and not alert, because laying down doesn't mean calm necessarily. Laying down just means laying down. But I want my dogs to be laying down and sort of relaxed before I allow them to go up and sniff. And then once you allow your dog off your bed, watch its behavior. If it doesn't look like it's going to listen to you, then you must get the dog to go back to its bed or listen to you. But the dog can't go into who is this mode in a very cautious way. You know what I mean? The dog still must be soft enough to listen to you in that situation. That's how you're going to get your dog to be open to new strangers. All right? Thanks for your question. Do you take online clients? No, I don't at the moment. But I'd be willing to do a Skype session or something in that regard if you needed some help. So let me know, DM me. All right, let's keep moving on, dog people. This all my Q&As are available on iTunes. Trying not to sound like a commercial, you know. Oh, my dog training podcasts are available on iTunes. Please check them out. Don't want to sound like that, but it's true. All right, next question. How do you teach your dog to be non-reactive? My pit is very friendly towards other dogs, but if the other dog growls or snaps at him, he will fight back. Even if it was more of a warning growl. How can I work my dog just to leave other dogs alone if they're irritated? So normally, when I'm socializing another dog, or I'm socializing a dog, and I want them to sort of respond, I'll put an e-collar on them and press the vibrate button. It'll usually get them to walk away. So if your dog decides to fight back, the vibrate button may not work, but the e-collar will still work. You still have to have some way, somehow, to communicate with that dog off leash. The dog has to learn no when the dog gets sassy like that. Okay, but start with the vibration. Try that. All right. What should I do if my dog physically in place but growling at my guest under their breath? Well, you can say down, you can say quiet. I prefer down. If your dog is in a down and their head is up, then you can say down until their head goes down. You'll start to see their demeanor sort of sink into the bed. Works on every dog, but I would work on that. Okay, and you can even, if you have an e-collar, you can use very low level to get them to put that head down as well. But down works better than stay or quiet, in my opinion. Because you'll see dogs that are like this, but laying down, but like this, and maybe they're growling. You say down, and they'll go. They'll kind of melt a little bit down into the bed. That's what you want. All right, try that. See if it works. Thanks for your question. Okay, folks, we only got a couple questions left. So, if you have any questions you are just dying to ask, go ahead and ask. All right, next question. Any suggestions for our boxer pit who licks all the time? He's like a cat. We've been told he's bored, but I think it's his hello and a nervous thing, or it's his way to get what he wants. I'd be willing to bet that that's what it is. Listen, some dogs do some strange things to get what they want. In general, some dogs bark, some dogs jump, some dogs, nose you, they'll growl, they'll do whatever it takes to get what they want. And it's probably attention. And if it works, it works. But you can correct your dog for doing that. When it starts to get that licking behavior, tell the dog no, push the dog away, tell the dog to go lay down, all those things. But if you don't want it, then let them know that you don't want it. Okay? Maybe just being pushy. So, that's that. Thanks for your question. All right, let's see, one more. Read an article recently saying you shouldn't ever hit a dog for any reason. It will make them aggressive. Thoughts? Well, when you're being physical with a dog, does it make them more aggressive? It may make them want to clap back. That's why there are tools to sort of avoid that. Okay? There are some dogs that will clap back if you're physical with them. But that doesn't mean that it makes them aggressive. It just means that they want what they want and your challenge isn't good enough, or your challenge is met with their challenge. For example, let's just say you're getting annoyed with your dog. Maybe he just fought with another dog or whatever it was. You grab him by the collar, you grab him by the scuff, you try to put him in his crate, and he turns around and bites you. That happens a lot. You just got a call this week, and that's what happened. And the people are wondering why it happened. Well, it happened because the dog thought it was okay to do it. The dog wanted what it wanted, and that was their action to get what it wanted. The dog did not want to go in the crate. Happens all the time. And so that is a form of being physical with your dog. I mean, we are physical animals as well. Being physical is fine. I'm not saying punch, kick, hit, not saying that. But when your dog does challenge you, like trying to bite you while going into the crate, and you grab that dog, it's fine. It's okay. I'm not telling you guys, again, that it's okay to hit your dog. There are tools for that, to fix that. There's training for that. But when a dog jumps on you and physically imposes their weight on you, it's okay to defend yourself. It really is. Because if you can convince your dog not to jump on you, chances are you will convince them not to bite you. So I do work with 98% aggressive dogs. So it is paramount that we teach dogs not to jump, because jumping is very disrespectful in the dog to dog world. Fights break out because of jumping. Dogs don't like it. Mutual respect between dogs means we don't jump on each other. And if there's one dog at the dog park being a butthole and jumping on other dogs, sooner or later that dog's going to learn a lesson very physically, and it could, it could hurt. It could become hurt from being so disrespectful. So I'm not going to say that you shouldn't be physical with your dog, because some people, it is very necessary sometimes. Okay? There's not a dog out there that doesn't bite and jump. There's not a dog out there that doesn't bite that also doesn't jump, is what I'm trying to say, or also doesn't bark. And so, if you can get the jumping resolved, then you don't get the bite most of the time. Do you have a video on correcting jumping? I don't think so, but this is how you correct it. If your dog jumps on you, just lift up your leg. Let him jump into your knee. The dog's goal is to get petted, or a treat, or your attention, or to manipulate you. And once it figures out that all those things don't get what it wants, then it'll stop doing it. But you must get mutual respect from your dog. Claim your space. Tell the dog no. And you can lift up your knee so that the dog wants to avoid doing that again. Alright? What's a butthole? A butthole is a dog who likes to jump on you and bite you and bark at you. Alright, guys. I think that is it. It is a Friday night. Most of my Wisconsin people are out. Yes, you do. Most of the people are out eating some fish. How long should a dog wear an e-collar each day? The dog should wear an e-collar when the dog acts bad. And so just look for the area, or try and well, I would say the dog collar. It's fine if the dog wears it all day, but it only has to be on it in the areas and where it decides to act up. So, for example, if you have a dog who is jumpy on guests, then put the e-collar on when the guests come over. And if the dog is fine after that, then you can take it off. Or if the dog barks in the window at squirrels and dogs, then wait until there are dogs and squirrels in the window, right? Like when people walk their dog, put the e-collar on, and then you can take it off after that. But I wouldn't get in the habit of wearing it all day, just for training. And so that can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. All right. All right, guys. Well, that's it for tonight. We're usually here on Wednesdays, so look out for that. We're usually here on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Dog behavior Q&A. Ask me whatever you want, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. But this will conclude this week's dog behavior Q&A. I really appreciate that. You can go to YouTube and watch them all. They're also recorded on Facebook and iTunes. We are going to, now that I'm getting my equipment together, we are going to be doing interviews just of some random people, and hopefully we can get some veterinarians in here. I'd like to try and bridge the gap between. There is a big gap between of knowledge when it comes to dog trainers, as far as the medical side of things, and the veterinarians as far as the training side of things. So if we can talk about that and talk it out, That'd be great. You guys look out for that. It's going to be coming pretty soon. I'm just getting my podcast equipment up and running and learning how to do this crap because it is all a bunch. It can be a little overwhelming, but we're here and we're going to learn. All right, you guys have a good night and have a good Easter. See you next time.